To ensure that you know how to use the problem-solving approach to plan your message assignments, I have created this step-by-step guide to show you how this assignment should be completed and for you to use as a study guide and resource for future assignments. Let's start by reviewing the scenario behind the following message. After noticing that some workers were starting work late and finishing early, a department head wrote this message to subordinates. It is apparent that many of you are not giving the company a full day's work. Thus, the following procedures are implemented immediately. After you clock in, you will proceed to your workstations and will be ready to begin work promptly at the start of the work period. You will not take a coffee break or consume coffee on the job at the beginning of the work period. You will wait until your designated break times. You will not participate in social gatherings at any time during the workday except during designated break periods. You will terminate work activities no earlier than 10 minutes prior to the end of the work period. You will use the 10 minutes to put up equipment, clean equipment, and police the work area. You will not queue up at the exit prior to the end of the work period. It's easy to see why this message was not well received by the workers. In fact, it led to considerable anger and confusion. In most minds, the negative language used here is associated with harsh, autocratic leadership, the kind most of us don't like. As I'll explain in the following chapters, such negative words create unpleasant mental images. In addition, the lecturing tone used throughout the document is insensitive and even insulting. Most people react negatively when people talk down to them. A much more diplomatic message would have resulted had the writer thought more carefully about what effects he or she really wanted to achieve. Was it making people angry? That shouldn't be one of them. Who would read the message and how they would likely respond to various approaches and tones. Using the communication planning information from this chapter explains where the department head's problem-solving process went awry. Let's talk about what did he or she fail to take into account. Just refer to Learning Objectives 1-6 through 1-8 for some of the information. The path to the best solution requires research, analysis, creativity, and judgment because in any communication situation where people are involved, people are complex and unique. So one must think about the long-term effects of several possible solutions. The skillful communicator is sensitive to the larger context surrounding the receiver and the message and uses the problem-solving approach to plan how to communicate the message that really needs to be sent. I'd like to refer you at this point to Exhibit 1-5 on page 18 in your textbooks. Step 1 of using the problem-solving approach to business. You need to develop a definition of the problem that you're trying to solve. Once you have defined your problem, you can plan your message by answering several questions. As you plan written documents in particular, you can make the planning process more manageable by thinking about it in 5 smaller steps. First, you need to determine your goals. Next, you need to analyze your audience. Then you start gathering information regarding the situation and your audience. Now you will take that information and analyze and organize it. And finally, you will choose a form, a channel, or a format of the document that you will disperse. Planning a good message takes time. The reason is that you have much to consider when writing to an audience you may not know that well. The investment of your time pays dividends when you are able to achieve the goal of your message and to enhance your professional image by writing a coherent, concise, and thorough document. Hopefully by now you have opened up your textbook or downloaded the Exhibit 1-5 Planning Your Communication Strategy, a Problem-Solving Approach document. And as you can see, there are a number of questions on this exhibit. The first question is, what is the situation? For this particular assignment, the situation is that a department head has become aware that some workers were starting work late and finishing early. This means they're not putting in a full day's work like some of the other workers. So now this is where you determine your goal. What do you need to do? As the department head, you want to create a procedure to ensure that all workers know what is required of them relating to the start and end time of an 8-hour workday, including break times. Because business writing is largely performed in response to certain situations, one of your main planning tasks is to figure out what you want to do about the situation. Bear in mind that in business communication, what to do means not only what you want your communication to achieve, but also any action related to the larger business problem. Here you're going to need to bring your business goals, for instance, increase profits, to attract new clients, to bear on your writing goals. In other words, how to communicate your message and promote a professional image while still building goodwill. Though sometimes clarifying your writing goals will help you generate business solutions. Next, question 2 asks, what are some possible communication strategies, and what, if any, is your prior relationship with your audience? What are the organizational, professional, and personal contexts? This is where you would perform an analysis of your prospective audience to gather the information necessary in the planning process. We'll learn more how to do this in detail in the next chapter. But just very briefly, analyzing your audience means that once you know your purpose and goal, what you want your message to do, you need to analyze the audience who will read your message. Who's going to be affected by what you write? What are some of the organizational, professional, and personal issues or qualities that will affect the audience response to the message? What are some of the organizational, professional, and personal issues or qualities do you have that affect how you will write your message? What's your personal relationship with the readers? Are you writing to your superior, your colleagues, your subordinates, clients? Answers to these questions and others will influence your channel of communication, your tone, your style, your content, organization, and format. We'll learn how to do this in greater detail in the next chapter. Though you should take time to analyze your audience early in the planning process, you should continue to think of your audience as you proceed through the rest of the planning stage and through the drafting and revising stages as well. Always be thinking about what kind of information will matter most to your audience and adapt your message accordingly. If you fail to meet your audience's needs, your message fails as well, and your professional image is compromised. Here's a hint, and you're going to learn this more in Chapter 4. Always put yourself in the place of the recipient of your message. What benefit would you get? How do you feel by reading a message that has a negative tone to it? It's called the you viewpoint. Keep that in mind. Once you have a sense of what you want your message to achieve and what your audience needs to know, you may need to do some research. So gathering information by using either your memory, imagination, and creativity is also important. Visualizing your readers, bearing their interests in mind, is an excellent planning technique. Make a list of pertinent facts. That's helpful. Do some brainstorming, generating possible solutions. That will allow you to develop creative solutions. Draw a diagram of your ideas so that you can it'll also enable you to collect your thoughts. Use any strategy that shows promise of contributing to a solution. The next step in the planning process is to determine what the best course of action is. In this case, a good course of action might be to create an official office procedure. The word procedure is actually used in that scenario. Then you would research the best way to write a procedure. You can also cite some state labor laws regarding workday hours and breaks. This is when you analyze and organize the information you gathered to choose the best message form, channel, and format, including its contents, structure, and style. As you ponder what to do and say with your message, you will, of course, keep your readers in mind. What kind of information will most matter to them? As always, your intended readers are your best guide to what information to include. They're also your guide for organizing the information. Whatever order you will draw the most positive reaction from your readers is the best order to use. If you have information that your readers will consider routine, neutral, or positive, put it first. Let's say the department head decided to create a procedure to keep the message positive. The best course of action is to research the best way to write a procedure. Often procedures begin with an opening, introductory paragraph that uses positive tone just to inform the readers of the new procedure. No blame is being assigned here. No pointing of fingers. Then you can use a bulleted list of steps from the start of the day through to the end of the day, including the time allotted for morning and afternoon breaks and a meal break. For this, the department head might want to cite labor laws regarding a normal workday with breaks as evidence. The closing paragraph will always promote goodwill. We'll learn much more about how to format messages using a direct order in Chapter 5. Next, let's choose a form, channel, and format. What's the best way to design the chosen message? Writers in school typically produce writing of two types, essays and research papers. On the job, you have a wide range of established forms of communication from which you can choose. The one you choose has to have a huge impact on your planning. Each form has its own formatting and stylistic conventions, and even conventions about content. Business writers do not launch into writing a document without some sense of what kind of document it will be. The medium itself helps them know what to say and how to say it. On the job, choosing the type of document to be written is an important part of the planning process. Specific decisions about a document's format or visual design can be made at any point in the writing process, but usually the planning stage involves preliminary decisions along these lines. So how can you make the information easily readable and accessible to your audience? Will you be dividing up the contents with headings? How about with a bulleted or numbered list? Anticipating the format can help you plan and write an inviting and readable message. Formatting devices have a large impact on readers' reactions, so make decisions about formatting, and it's an important part of the business writer's writing process, even in the planning stage. So let's go back to our scenario. Talk about the document format we would use here. Because this is an internal operational communication, the memo format is typically used. If you see on the slide, I refer you to Chapter 2 and Bonus Chapter A, which shows you some examples of memo formats. If you're using a word processing software, there'll probably be some templates for you to use called memorandum. The word memorandum or memo at the top includes the company logo. This is part of the format. Then it includes headings, which includes the date, to whom the message is being sent, possibly a courtesy copy, that's what a CC stands for, only if applicable, who the message is from, and what the subject is. In this case, it would be Workday Procedures. Larger companies might have different site locations, many departments, and so on and so forth. So you might want to include that as part of the headings, either the department, the city and state location. Then comes the message content. This is the procedure. Finally, it's time to ask the last question. What is the best way to deliver this message? Are there timing considerations related to delivering your message? Should you combine the main message with any other message? How can you best ensure that each intended recipient receives, reads, and/or hears your message? Now it's your turn to answer all the questions using the blank worksheet that I've made available for you in this assignment.